what that would mean for their social services, for their healthcare, for a whole host of things.
I think you're getting ahead of yourself, Ashley.
A deal has been made. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, there's a huge deal between Donald Trump and Keir Starmer of the UK. That's right, Mark Carney has cut no deal. He's had months to cut a deal, but he has not cut a deal. We've got the Bank of Canada coming out and saying things are going to be tough in Canada. More Alberta separation talk, and Elections Canada has miraculously found 800 ballots. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we got the food professor with top food price increases in 2025 so far. Oranges 27%, sweet potatoes 26, carrots 24, avocados 20 for beef, salmon and rice 19%, and frozen corn 15%. Thanks Liberals, thanks for nothing. Elbows up, food prices up, cost of living up, crime up. I paid $2.61 for one tomato yesterday. I was shocked. Seriously. Onions, a previously throwaway fruit, are now very expensive at $2.99 per pound. Why haven't bananas increased price in the last 4 years? Well, bananas are grown year round. There's a huge supply all over the world, and a lot of grocery stores use them as a leader into the store. They'll take a loss or make almost no money on them just to get people in the store. Aside from that, maybe there are other factors, I'm not sure. We've got Tiff Macklin today saying things are not good in Canada.
In the medium term, a prolonged global trade war would have severe economic consequences. It would reduce growth and increase unemployment. This could, in turn, have important ramifications for the financial system. With debt still at high levels, some households and businesses may be unable to keep up with payments. If loan losses occur on a large enough scale, banks could cut back on lending in response. This would exacerbate the economic downturn and put more pressure on businesses and households.
So about more what we expected. Things are going to get worse in Canada. In my opinion, Tiff, the purple tie, it's got to go. Next up, Mark Carney gets heckled about who the owners of Canada are. I should note, when I initially watched that, just the way it was said, and I wasn't the only one. There was tons of people who took it the same way I did, as like, who's the owners of Canada? It's such a weird thing to say. The fact he said Buckingham Palace right before, for anyone who didn't see, I clipped it out of my video, but I thought he was talking about Prince Charles, not Canadians.
Who are the owners of Canada? Canadians want to know. Who's the owners of Canada, Mark Carney? You told that to Donald Trump. Who are they?
We got Ron Gerritsen posting this one. Canadians skipping U.S. travel in favor of domestic European destinations. I don't think so, guys. CTV trying to push this new narrative that like we should be connecting with Europe and embracing Europe. What, we going to join the EU next? As he says, psychological warfare from the media. Media tells you week in and week out basically what you should be doing as a good citizen. As he mentions here, programming. It's like programming of the people. No. Canadians are skipping U.S. travel, though. That is for sure. With that, we've got the governor of Illinois begging Canadians to come down to the States.
Every year, over 600,000 Canadians travel south to the great state of Illinois. I don't blame anyone whose appetite for visiting might have soured with our current president and the shameful way he's represented us on the national stage. But as governor and self-designated chief marketing officer of Illinois, I want to reassure you that we're as eager as ever to have you come here.
This is so absurd. This governor of Illinois is like begging Canadians to come down.
You head south through our shared Great Lakes. Chicago is ready to...
Oh my gosh. This is a clown world we're living in now. We've got this one going around. Elections Canada blames human error as over 800 special ballots misplaced in BC riding office. This account here posted the timeline of it. Elections Canada, May 7th, 10:05 a.m. There's a lot of inaccurate information circulating about the elections. 4 p.m. concerns over higher than usual number of candidates. 4:41 judicial recount to be held. 4:45 822 ballots had been kept at the office of returning officer. So just an update on this. The Liberals won by a couple thousand votes, so it doesn't matter. It wouldn't have changed the results, but it's ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This shouldn't have happened. It's absurd. Someone should get in trouble for this. Someone needs to take accountability for this. Similar shenanigans occurred in BC election. Yeah, we're not going into that. Can't talk about that on this platform, but there was definitely shenanigans with the BC election. Moving ahead here, we've got Ezra Levant. He's traveled to Bermuda, and look what he's found here. Brookfield Bermuda Limited, Brookfield Infrastructure Partners Limited, Brookfield Renewable, Brookfield Property Partners, and Brookfield Business Partners. This is their headquarters, the one that Mark Carney was brought in and moved all of this down to Bermuda to help Brookfield dodge $5.3 billion in taxes. Now, unfortunately, this is just a little teaser. He hasn't put the video up yet. I think it's going out tomorrow, but we've got this one from Table Salt. It says, new from the Bank of Canada, long last long-lasting trade war could push mortgage arrears to 2008 levels. So that's what we're looking at on this side here. Yep, this trade war needs to end, and it needs to end real quick. What's Mark Carney doing? He's doing a bunch of photo ops. He's meeting with business people. Is he getting anything done? He's had time. Remember, he was prime minister before the election as well. Moving on to the big trade news, we've got Donald Trump coming out today with the United Kingdom. They've secured a complex deal here, as he's posted.
The deal includes billions of dollars of increased market access for American exports, especially in agriculture, dramatically increasing access for American beef, ethanol, and virtually all of the products produced by our great farmers. And our Secretary, as you know, of Agriculture is here. Brooke, thank you very much.
Comprehensive one that will cement a relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom for many years to come. Because of our long history and allegiance together, it is a great honor to have the United Kingdom as our first announcement. Trump did go on to almost say the UK being America's greatest partner.
Feel very, very comfortable with that because it's been a great ally, truly one of our great allies. I mean, a lot of people say our greatest ally. I don't want to insult people by saying that, but I can say it's certainly one of our greatest.
Yeah, what does that say about Canadians? What is Mark Carney going to say to that? So Mario summed it up here. U.S. tariff reductions. UK steel and aluminum reduced down to 0% tariff on 100,000 UK cars per year, cut from 25 to 10%. Exports beyond that quota go up to 27.5%. Tariffs on UK jet engines and plane parts eliminated. 10% baseline tariff on most other UK goods remains unchanged. UK concessions tariffs on US beef reduced to 0%, with tariff-free quota up to 13,000 metric tons for UK farmers. Ethanol tariffs removed, benefiting US exports. A $10 billion UK airline purchase of Boeing planes, incorporating Rolls-Royce engines and parts. That's interesting because that directly involves one company. You got to wonder who the ties are between Boeing and the Trump administration when you're seeing a deal like that. UK tariffs on foreign steel introduced, aligning with US trade goals. So it's a very complicated deal here. It is the first deal to be made with Trump. We've got the woke left here on CNN having a meltdown.
The United Kingdom, wonderful country, lovely people, love myself some fish and chips, don't mind their beer, but they're our 11th largest trading partner. They account for 3% of American trade. And if I took off all my shoes and socks and got 4 more people in the room, I'd be able to tell you that that leaves 97% of American trade are absolutely up in the air.
What a bizarre thing to say. We've got Desiree Fixler posting this one. Germany's new I stand for nothing but me chancellor, Friedrich Merz, will speak with Donald Trump today. So everyone wants to get their trade deal in. Let's hope it's bruising as Mark Carney's was on Tuesday. These global elitists are long overdue for a Trump-style mark to market. We got the Toronto Star posting this one. Donald Trump is more erratic than a honey badger on bath salts. Here's how Mark Carney tamed him. Come on, guys. Carney had one job: normalize relations with an abnormal narcissist. With the subdued laughs, it's almost as if Trump longed to be his friend. This is so dumb, guys. As FlexJS says here, most unrealistic take yet. Why is every single mainstream media pushing this opinion? Does anyone actually believe this? We're seeing stuff like this. Canada's new conservative movement resembles Donald Trump's. Come on, guys. Mark Carney was just licking Trump's boots in the Oval Office. You can stop with this nonsense. So this is coming from The Economist. Remember how we saw the White House put out that sizzle reel of Mark Carney? Now we've got Mark Carney posting his own sizzle reel of himself.
I conveyed to the president today what our countries have long proven to be true, that Canada and the United States are stronger when we work together. We can get a better deal for our workers. We can create more opportunities for our businesses.
This guy was sitting there for 4 minutes at the end of the press conference while Donald Trump just walked all over him, talking about how America doesn't need this, that, and the other. And Mark Carney didn't interject. He didn't say anything. He just sat there like a good little boy.
We can build stronger economies across North America when we work together. The question is how we will cooperate in the future, how we can build an economic and security relationship built on mutual respect. We agreed to have further conversations in the coming weeks, and we are looking forward to meeting in person at the G7 summit in Kananaskis in Alberta.
What we should really be talking about is what I've added here. So we all know about Brookfield shielding Trump from the SEC probe. Well, if you think about it from the other direction, Mark Carney's G-Fans is being investigated by the Judiciary Committee. So maybe there's a deal here where they shield each other, they help each other. What is going on here? Yeah, I haven't thought about this one in a while, but it makes a lot of sense. If we look up Mark Carney's name in here, it comes up 7 times, as you can see here. I mean, just look what it says here. The achievement of net zero because it allows climate cartel members to decide who to lend or who to invest to and who to avoid. They're coming after Mark Carney hard in here. As it says here, disclose the climate cartel campaign to force ExxonMobil to make climate disclosures that are immaterial to investment decisions. The climate cartel demands the U.S. companies adopt transition plans to shrink production. According to G-Fans co-chair Mark Carney, a transition plan, as the English would say, it is what it says on the tin. It's a company outlining what the current emissions are, what it intends to do, and what the strategy is in order to reduce those emissions. In contrast to the climate cartel's call for climate disclosures or targets, implementing transition plans requiring U.S. companies to specify how it plans to phase out emitting assets before the end of their technically useful life.
So what we're recognizing as part of this is both that clean energy is going to be increasingly important to competitiveness. We have enormous opportunities in this country on that. We can build that out. But at the same time, we want to dominate the market for conventional energy. And in order to do that, in the long term, it needs to be lower carbon on, since you asked the question about climate, on Scope 1, Scope 2 emissions. It's got all sorts of documents and infographics explaining all this stuff in here. Is this a situation of I'll scratch your back, you'll scratch my back? I don't know. I mean, weird how you filmed this ahead of time, almost like you guys are business partners or something. Yes, Carla knows what's going on here. Trump did say he was the best thing to ever happen to you and your campaign. Carney made sure to film it in the US too, so he could avoid the 100% tariffs on foreign films. We got this story that's broke today. CPC candidate Joe Tay, so he was the one who was scared off by goons that was trailing his campaign team when he's campaigning for the Conservative Party in his riding. The RCMP told him to stop campaigning, as it says here, because Chinese government threats. He lost his riding. Now the government has snatched his cousin and wife in Hong Kong. See how this works. So Sam Cooper breaking this story here. So Hong Kong police have detained relatives of Canadian candidate targeted by Beijing election interference. Move could leverage PM Carney after Trump meeting. So this is exactly it. If Mark Carney comes out and says nothing about this, this says a lot about him. It says how compromised he is. He needs to come out and denounce this and take swift action against China. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's what he should be doing. As Sam Cooper says here, Tay's case fits an increasingly global pattern. The Bureau has learned that a report reviewed by the Toronto police during the campaign involved suspected stalking threat against members of Tay's team. And now, even after democratic outcomes, the Chinese state still appears to be determined to punish political critics through surveillance, coercion, intimidation directed at family members, sending a clear message to diaspora communities and foreign governments alike. Canada must take a firm stance against Chinese aggression. We invited carnage into Canada when China was in our political parties. We saw how firm Carney was with Trump yesterday in the Oval Office. We saw how firm he was with Paul Chang. We need a strong leader, not a banker. Yeah, a compromised banker. So Sam Cooper posting this one on the Bureau today. So Tay lost by 5,000 votes in his riding because he wasn't able to campaign because of Chinese CCP goons going after his team in Don Valley North. And because Tay's a freedom fighter for Hong Kong speaking against the government, now they've nabbed his family. So we'll see what happens with this. Mark Carney has to come out immediately and address this, or he's completely compromised. Next up, we got Vasi Kapellos interviewing Daniel Smith. A lot of talk about separation going on.
How is it helpful, though, Premier, with respect to open the door to, for example, a citizen-led referendum on separation if your overall objective is to engage in more fruitful negotiations with the federal government? And if, in fact, that referendum results in a vote to separate, would you?
I would say there's a lot there. I would say that we were in the process of modifying all of our elections laws because we had heard that the thresholds for both recall and citizen initiative were too high, and so they were unrealistic. So that was a process that was taking place independently. It may well be that this is an issue around autonomy is the first one that garners enough signatures to be put to the people. But I would say my job is to look at what we see in the world out there. We've got 30 to 40% of Albertans polled saying that they are dissatisfied with the country to the point where they would consider it. And my job is to try to bring those numbers down. That's what I'm doing. That's why I have been told by my caucus and by the people that I speak with to give this new prime minister a chance to see if we can get to a deal. And that's what I intend to do, is to go into those discussions in good faith and hope that we can get to a resolution and a meeting of the minds.
Isn't the easiest way to quell that sentiment to say it won't happen?
Well, I think you can see that if there isn't an outlet, it creates a new party. In Quebec right now, the Parti Québécois is polling highest of the provincial parties. And we also see that the Bloc won a significant number of seats. I don't want to see that happen. I want to see us identify the issues that matter to people. Let's not demonize people. Let's acknowledge that the feelings that they have a root, and the root is in the way Alberta has been treated for the last 10 years by the Liberals.
Danielle Smith is going about this in a very fair way, making it easier for referendums for the people to be heard, because we know we've been suppressed by the Liberal government for so long now. Even being able to have referendums on anything, not just separation, and then being able to be heard, we should have this federally as well. Well, at the same point, she's not the cheerleader advocating for separation, quite the opposite.
So that's genuine. And I'm being very direct with the Prime Minister and saying, if we can solve some of these things, I think that will bring the temperature down. And that's what I'll continue to do.
If the vote is yes, would you pursue separation as Premier?
I have always said that I do not support separation. I support Alberta sovereignty within a united Canada. That's what our party supports, as well as in our statement of principles. It's what my caucus supports. And that's my marching orders, is to do what we can to make sure that our autonomy is respected, the Constitution is respected, some of these damaging policies are removed. And I think we can end up with a deal that works not only for Alberta, but for the entire country.
So do I take that even if the vote is yes, that you would not pursue separation in your capacity as Premier?
My job is to make sure it doesn't get to yes. My job is to make sure that the temperature is brought down so much that there isn't even a need for a citizen-initiated referenda. And so I think that the Prime Minister has a window here in the next 6 months to be able to meaningfully address the issues that we've put on the table. And if he does, I think we can have a really constructive conversation about making the entire country an economic powerhouse, finding new markets, tearing down internal trade barriers. That's what I'm going to be focused on in the next 6 months.
And I have a few questions about those policies that you would certainly want him to consider.
Mark Carney was banging that drum for a while, the interprovincial trade barriers, that whole idea that Pierre Poilievre announced first. So far, where's the progress on that? If Carney doesn't deliver that by, July 1st, he said, he's going to look like an absolute fool.
But saying that, you don't want to get to the vote is not the same as saying that you wouldn't pursue it if it is a yes vote. Just to be clear to Canadians who are watching in Alberta and outside Alberta, if the citizens of your province vote to separate, are you going to pursue that?
What I have said is that I will respect the outcome of citizen-initiated referenda, and that's why it's my job to make sure it doesn't get to that point. I want Canada to be strong and united, and for provincial jurisdiction to be respected, and that's what I'll be working towards.
Vassie wants that soundbite. She's trying for it. She's not getting it, though.
Surely, though, you can recognize, Premier, that the feasibility, even if the vote were to go ahead, is incredibly complicated. And some of the, for example, Indigenous people in your province have highlighted that. Healthcare transfers. How does your system work without them? Is it responsible to leave that door open in any way?
Well, I think that's up to constitutional scholars and to lawyers to discuss. At the moment, there isn't a petition campaign. There isn't a question. All there is I think some goodwill in trying to be able to resolve some of the issues that have burbled up over the last 10 years. And that's what my intention is going to be. But you may have to talk to a legal scholar about some of those issues. But there has been Supreme Court jurisprudence on this that has given some direction. And that may be a starting point for scholars to look into it.
I'm not even talking legally, though. I'm literally picturing Alberta, where you and I both know I lived for almost 5 years, with a healthcare system that does not have healthcare transfers. Like, how does that, let's take the law out of it. Shouldn't you be honest with Albertans who are expressing this sentiment, which is, I understand, not coming from a place that isn't unfounded completely. That sentiment is not something to be dismissed, but shouldn't you be honest with them about what it would mean if they were to vote yes, and now that you've opened the door to following their instruction, what that would mean for their social services, for their health care, for a whole host of things?
I think you're getting ahead of yourself, Vashi. There is no question. There is no petition campaign. There is no vote. All there is me saying that I support a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada, and that I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that those issues are not ones that we have to deal with. I want Albertans to feel like their issues are addressed. And that's what my mandate is. And that's what I'll be working towards. I've said I'm not putting forward a provincial sponsored referendum on that issue. If citizens garner enough signatures, it will be put on a ballot, but it's certainly not something we're doing as a government.
I know Vasi likes to play bad cop, but I mean, trying to argue health transfers, Alberta's going to be flush with cash if they were to leave. Not having to pay the tab for Quebec and Ontario, Alberta would be just fine. They could pay for their own police, their own border, their own security, their own passports, and their own taxation system with all the savings from not having to pay Quebec.
Sure, and I take that point, but I would also point out that during this interview you said if the citizens do decide something, then your job, you said, is to respect their decision.
Living in Montreal through all the Quebec crap, I realized that separation was a tool Quebec used to get more from Ottawa. Could very well be that Ottawa will have to sweeten the deal for Albertans to want to stay within the Federation. This is this comment here right on point. There's never a boring day around here, is there? Anything from a Conservative candidate's family members getting captured by the Chinese government to Donald Trump making big deals, this case in the UK, not with Mark Carney. He has been talking with Modi of India. He's talking with Germany soon. Will Mark Carney be the next to strike a deal, or is Canada going to get hung out to dry once again?